I was just 20 when I first put on the uniform. Skinny, full of nerves, and still carrying my mama's prayers in my pocket. I grew up in a small town where the biggest excitement was the Friday night football game and the occasional bar fight. Joining the military felt like the only real way out. I didn't do it to be a hero. I did it because I wanted to matter, and I didn't know any other way. Boot camp kicked the boy out of me and left a man standing in his place, or at least, that's what they said. The truth is, no training can prepare you for the sound a bullet makes when it flies past your ear, or the way your chest tightens the first time you see a body fall and know it's never getting up again. We landed overseas in the dead of night. The air smelled like diesel and dust. I remember gripping my rifle so hard my fingers ached. My heart didn't beat like a clock, it hammered like a warning. The sergeant barked orders, and we moved like shadows through unfamiliar streets. It felt like stepping into a different world, one where the rules I'd grown up with didn't mean a damn thing. My first patrol was quiet. Too quiet. I remember thinking that was a good sign. I was wrong. The silence was just a breath before the scream. A week later, we lost our first man. Thompson. A good kid from Iowa who liked to sing country songs at night. We were on a routine sweep when a roadside bomb ripped through our Humvee. The sound was louder than anything I'd ever heard, a sound that didn't stop in your ears but rang through your bones. I still see it in my dreams. The flash. The dirt. The screaming. The way we clawed through the wreckage trying to find anyone still breathing. I pulled Thompson out myself. His body was broken in a way that didn't seem real. I sat beside him, whispering that it was gonna be okay, even though I knew it wasn't. After that, nothing was ever the same. Food didn't taste right. Laughter felt hollow. We started sleeping in shifts, eyes wide even in the dark. Every time I closed mine, I saw his face. I started writing letters home, but I left out all the bad parts. I told my mama the stars were pretty and the locals were friendly. I didn't tell her I cried in the latrine when no one was looking. I remember one night, I found an old photo of my high school sweetheart in my pack. I stared at it until the sunrise, trying to remember what her voice sounded like. I realized I couldn't. War doesn't just steal lives. It steals memory. It steals the parts of you that made you human. And when the dust finally settles, you don't recognize the person staring back in the mirror. If you're still listening, I want to thank you. For hearing me out. For taking the time to care. If stories like mine matter to you, if you believe they should be remembered, please hit that subscribe button. Not for me, but for every kid who never made it back, and for every old vet sitting alone in a silent room tonight, wondering if anyone still gives a damn. We remember by telling. We heal by sharing. So stay with me, there's more to this story. I thought I was ready for everything before stepping into the war. But no training prepares a 20-year-old boy to see his friend blown apart by shrapnel or to drag back what's left of someone he laughed with the night before. All the theories, tactics, talk about duty, they vanish the second bullets start flying. Then it's just you, your pounding heart, and a voice inside screaming, stay alive, no matter what. The first firefight wasn't anything like in the movies. It was chaos. We were ordered to move into a village at the edge of the jungle. Intel said there might be enemy activity, but nothing clear. We moved in at night. No moon. Trees thick as steel. Every sense on high alert. Just as we approached the outskirts, gunfire erupted from the right. Joe yelled, then dropped like a puppet whose strings were cut. I hit the dirt, pulling my rifle up and spraying bullets toward the muzzle flashes. We scattered, took cover behind broken walls and tree trunks. It was 22 minutes of hell. 22 minutes that felt like a lifetime. When it finally stopped, we crawled out, checking on each other. The first body I saw was Bobby, lying face down, his lower half gone. I just dropped to my knees, couldn't speak. Max sat beside me, eyes red, no tears. We'd already seen too much for crying to do any good. I remember sitting in the field hospital 3 nights in a row, not sleeping, tending the wounded and counting the lost. The medic only had 2 morphine shots and had to decide who needed them more. There was a kid, barely 18, shaking, begging me not to let him die. I held his hand, told him he'd be okay, even though I knew damn well he wouldn't make it. The look in his eyes haunts me still. Hope, because I gave it to him. False, but all he had. I never told anyone this. I once killed a man with my bare hands. It was during a surprise ambush when our unit got split. I got left behind. An enemy soldier charged me. I fell. He tried to take my rifle. Somehow, I found the strength to flip him, smashing his head into the rocks. Over and over, until he stopped moving. My hands were covered in blood. His or mine, I couldn't tell. I looked at the body, breathless, stunned. I wanted to scream, cry, vomit, but nothing came out. That was the moment I understood what real trauma was. Not fear of dying, but the terror of what I had to become in order to survive. We weren't just fighting an enemy. We were fighting ourselves, our guilt, our doubts. The question that never left me, was any of this right? I once sat beside an old man in a village we secured. He didn't speak English. Just looked at me and cried. I didn't need translation to feel the judgment in his eyes. I didn't know if I was a savior or a monster. That uncertainty still gnaws at me. There was a day we pulled 3 kids out of a bomb shelter. 2 were crying. 1, maybe 10 years old, had lost a leg. I picked him up. He shook like a dry leaf in the wind. I cried when he smiled at me. Despite everything, he believed I was the good guy. I don't know why he did. I've often wondered why I made it home and those children didn't. I still have no answer. In the final weeks, we were just ghosts moving through war zones. No one talked much. We ate, patrolled, and slept like machines. When off duty, I wrote letters to home full of lies about blue skies and quiet nights. I buried the truth deep inside. Even now, reading those letters, I pity that version of myself, the boy trying to stay whole while falling apart. The day we left the war zone, there was no music, no flags. Just a chopper lifting us out. As I looked down at the land below, I knew I was leaving behind more than footprints. I'd buried my youth, my innocence, a part of my soul. I thought coming home meant healing. I was wrong. War follows you back. It hides in your sleep, in the sound of fireworks, in the silence of everyday life. I'm not telling this story to be called a hero. I'm telling it because truth matters. Because too many voices have gone unheard. Too many stories lost in time. If you've made it this far, I thank you. If this story moved you, if you believe it deserves to be remembered, please hit that subscribe button. Not just for me, but for every soldier who carried a burden too heavy to share. Let's keep telling these stories. Let's make sure none of them are forgotten. I don't remember the exact date anymore. All I remember was the suffocating heat in every breath, the bitter smell of gunpowder still clinging in the air, and the hollow, chilling feeling when I saw the familiar faces lying motionless. That was the last day I held a gun, the day I knew I would never be the same again, and the day I understood that war doesn't just kill people with bullets, it kills them with the silence that follows. We were ordered to take back an abandoned base in the valley, reportedly a hideout for a new group of insurgents. By that time, our unit had lost nearly half of its original men. We were drained. Not just physically, but spiritually. We moved like shadows. Every step heavy with silence. There was no joking, no conversation, only tired eyes filled with something far beyond fear. The march took 4 hours under the scorching sun. Sweat soaked through our shirts. Every water break was a quiet pause. I watched the men around me and felt cold inside. Their faces hollow, lips pressed tight, eyes looking far beyond the horizon. One guy carried a photo of his little girl in his breast pocket. Every time we paused, he'd pull it out, look at it, run his fingers across it, and tuck it back without a word. I got it. We were all scared. But fear wasn't weakness out there. Fear kept us alive. As we neared the base, we split into 3 teams. I went with the assault group heading in from the front. Gunfire erupted before we even saw anything. I hit the ground, heart pounding in my throat, ears ringing with the sound of bullets slicing through the air. Smoke everywhere. Yelling. Chaos. I crawled forward, shooting blindly, dust caking my face and gear. I saw Davis get hit in the neck, blood spurting like a fountain. I crawled to him, pressing down on the wound, blood hot and sticky on my hands. He looked at me, lips moving, but no words came out. I held his head and kept whispering, "You're okay, Davis, hang in there, we're almost home," even though I didn't believe it myself. We fought for nearly an hour. Ammo running low. Men going down one by one. A grenade blast knocked me flat, the shockwave rattling my brain, ears ringing, vision spinning. I landed against a broken wall. When I opened my eyes, a young man stood in front of me, not older than 20. His hands shook, pointing a rifle right at my chest. We locked eyes. Neither of us moved. I don't know why I didn't shoot. Maybe he was too young. Maybe I was too tired to kill again. He backed up slowly and ran. I didn't follow. I just sank down, heavy with something I couldn't name. Only 8 of us made it out of that fight. 8 out of 30. We were ordered to pull out. I remember when the chopper came. The rotor wash kicked up dirt, leaves, pieces of broken memory. I climbed aboard and looked back. The hills stretched far and wide, hiding the fallen under layers of green. I wondered if anyone would remember their names. If their stories would be told. Or if they'd be buried in silence, like so many others. Coming home didn't feel like coming home. People shook my hand, clapped my shoulder, called me a hero. But I didn't feel like one. I just felt like a man who survived. And surviving felt more like a sentence than a gift. I walked the streets, saw people laughing, arguing about gas prices and the weather, and none of it felt real. They didn't know the world I came from. They didn't know what I left behind. For months, I couldn't sleep. Every night was a new nightmare. I'd wake up soaked in sweat, heart pounding, screaming. I started sitting out on the porch at night, chain smoking just to stay awake. One time, I drove for hours until sunrise, just to escape the dreams. I was afraid of sleep, because in dreams, Davis came back. Covered in blood, eyes asking me, why did I die and you didn't? Eventually, I found a support group for veterans. I went, just to sit in the back. An older man spoke. He'd seen 2 wars. He talked slow, eyes steady. I didn't know if I wanted to listen, but I did. Somewhere during his story, tears started falling. I didn't even notice. Maybe because it was the first time I didn't feel alone. We began sharing, piece by piece. Memories. Regrets. Things we'd never told anyone. And through those stories, I started to find myself again. Not the boy who left home at 20. But the man who came back with pieces missing, yet still alive, still telling the tale so others wouldn't forget. Now I live in a small town. I grow vegetables in the backyard, keep a dog, and sometimes write in an old notebook. When someone asks about the service, I tell them. Not for praise, but so they understand, war isn't just about bravery. It's about wounds that never fully heal. If you're still listening, thank you. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard and remembered, please hit subscribe. Not for me, for Davis. For Bobby. For all the ones who didn't make it back. We don't need medals. We just need to be remembered. So let's keep telling these stories together. Because only by remembering, we truly keep them alive. I thought I had learned how to live with the past, but I was wrong. It's still there, buried deep in every breath, every heartbeat, every time I sit quietly and watch the morning sun and recall the scorching light of that day when we marched across the desert, blood on the sand, and our last drops of water shared among men who knew they might not make it back. I never told anyone about it, not even my wife, the woman who waited for me 3 long years, sending dozens of letters. I only dared read one at a time because each one reminded me I didn't deserve her. I survived, while so many others didn't. I came home with the shattered pieces of a man torn apart by war and no idea how to put him back together again. That battle happened in my 2nd year of service. By then I had stopped trembling at gunfire, but the sight of a dead body still made my skin crawl. It was a village nestled between 2 hills. We were ordered to take it back, because it was a strategic point used by the other side to run supplies and set up ambushes. I remember Sergeant Becker clearly. He led our platoon that day. He had a deep, steady voice and a look that could calm any rookie. He told us to split into 3 groups, approach from different sides, and signaled in silence like he feared waking the ghosts sleeping beneath the dry grass. I was with Harris and Malone, both young. Harris was barely 19, Malone a year older than me, but he laughed like a kid who'd never seen blood. We crawled on our stomachs like wounded animals, only lifting our heads when we were sure no sniper had us in their sights. When we reached the edge of the village, it started to rain, not heavy rain, but a fine mist mixed with dust and the acrid smell of scorched earth. That smell still haunts me to this day like a sweet nightmare, because what came next happened so fast. Gunfire exploded from the left. I turned and saw Harris flung backward, a bullet tearing through his chest, his eyes wide with disbelief like he couldn't believe he was dying. Malone screamed and dragged me into an abandoned house, We ducked behind a broken wall, peering through a crack in the window. Dust everywhere, screams, gunshots. It all sounded like thunder. I don't remember how many bullets I fired. I just remember my hands shaking every time I pulled the trigger, not from fear but from rage. I was furious that Harris was gone, furious I couldn't stop it, furious that I was still alive. Then Malone ran out when he saw a child in the open. The boy couldn't have been more than my little sister's age. When I left home, Malone shouted and sprinted like a madman. I saw him scoop the child up just before a hail of bullets ripped through his back. He collapsed in a pool of blood that soaked into the dirt like black mud. I screamed, not with my voice but with everything left inside me. I ran after him like a crazed animal, shooting, yelling. I don't know how many I killed or when I was hit. I just remember the ground shaking beneath me and the darkness slowly swallowing me whole. When I woke up, I was in a field hospital, leg in a cast, left arm bandaged, head stitched with 8 lines. I asked where Malone was. No one answered, just a nurse giving me a look filled with sorrow, too heavy to speak. I didn't cry, I just stared at the blank ceiling and pretended it was the sky. After that, I never carried a gun again. They moved me to a desk job, then discharged me early because of my injuries. I came home with no visible scars, but inside I was a broken battlefield. I dreamed of Harris every night, of Malone's smile before he fell, of the child's deep black eyes, not angry, just sad, as if it knew I'd carry it with me forever. Life after war was not easy. I worked at a gas station by day and battled insomnia by night. I avoided crowds, couldn't stand loud noises, always on edge. I once knocked over an entire shelf in a store because someone dropped a can behind me. I once sat in my car for 2 hours refusing to get out because I saw a boy wearing a toy soldier's costume. It took me years to smile without guilt, to say Harris and Malone's names without choking, to believe I had the right to live. Now I'm telling this story not for pity or praise, but so someone might understand that soldiers don't just lose limbs, they lose pieces of their soul. They carry shadows without names for the rest of their lives. If you're still listening, thank you. Please subscribe to this channel, not for me, but for those like Harris and Malone, those who never got to tell their stories, whose souls still wait quietly to be remembered one last time in silence.